A video game's box art is the front line of its marketing. Ads can be missed or ignored, but anyone browsing the shelf at their local game store, while local game stores still exist, will see the cover of your game. And ads can also be, and often are, outsourced. Video game box art, however, is usually designed in-house. And to be honest, a good cover along with box quotes and screenshots is the most direct way you can represent your game to your potential audience. To put it another way, despite common wisdom, most people do, for better or worse, judge a book by its cover. So it's important that your game's box has eye-catching art, direct messaging, and, at the very least, every single word spelled correctly. However, it's a lengthy process to meet such a low bar, which is precisely what makes these 10 cover art mistakes all the more baffling. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game cover mistakes you won't believe. Number 10, Okami Wii used an image from IGN. Okami is famous for two things. The first being one of the most beautiful, charming, undeniably unique video games ever made. The second is this infamous mistake that appears on the cover of the game's Nintendo Wii version. And at first glance, it looks just like the original PlayStation 2 cover, right? Well, you know, just with a different background. Well, a closer glance reveals that the Wii cover is actually pulled from an IGN article, complete with IGN's own watermark at the bottom. This raises two questions: why, and also, how? Well, for one, the game was ported by Ready at Dawn instead of the original developer Clover. But that still doesn't explain why it was somehow easier for them to rip an IGN image than get one from their own publisher, Capcom. I mean, presumably they would have an extensive stock of official Okami art available to them, and it would have been easy enough to get, you'd assume? Well, regardless of the reason, it's a minor but especially embarrassing gaffe for a game renowned for its unique visuals. Number 9, Rayman, Hoodlums Revenge. Only one Hoodlum? This one is a shout out to all the copy editors in the crowd, many of whom wouldn't be surprised if this error slipped through the cracks without anyone noticing. Rayman Hoodlums Revenge is a Game Boy Advance game starring Ubisoft's once popular mascot, Rabbids. So, just what's wrong with this seemingly innocuous title then? Well, the titular Hoodlums are the primary antagonists of the Rayman games, and in other words, they're the mostly identikit video game villains that you'll defeat by scores by the game's end. Think the Koopas of the Rayman world. Put it simply, there's a bloody boat ton of them. But you wouldn't know that based on this title, as the sloppy misplacement of the apostrophe suggests that this is the revenge of a single rogue hoodlum. To use the Mario analogy again, that would be like if the fourth Koopa from World 2-1 got its own game about its revenge on Mario. It doesn't make sense, and it's not actually what the game's about. Presumably, this title was meant to read Rayman Hoodlums Revenge, as in the plural with the apostrophe at the end after the S, to indicate the revenge of Rayman's entire rogues gallery of anonymous henchmen, but that did not come across in the actual thing. Number 8, Mario Kart 8 Wii U, a physical paradox. Now, Mario Kart might not be the most realistic racing game out there, but I'm pretty sure that even in the winding, gravity-defying courses of the Mushroom Kingdom, racers are still supposed to all drive in the same general direction. However, if you follow the track on this cover, it becomes clear that the racers are driving in the complete opposite directions from one another. Up front, you'll notice Mario and Peach driving upside down in hover mode. Behind them, you can spot the other characters driving on the ground above and below them as well. It's just confusing. I don't know why. Why have they done this? Why is this like one of those weird paintings that you see? Why am I doing this with my hands? Everything is confusing. Mario Kart 8 courses often twist and wrap around each other, but anyway you go about tracing this road, it's clear that the track in the foreground travels directly into the track in the background, meaning that someone here is just going the wrong way. It makes sense that Nintendo would want to show off the beautiful faces of their iconic characters, but the fact that the game's courses are, in fact, so logic-defying in the first place should make that an easier prospect. A little loop-de-loop in the background could have made the thing make total sense, but they just decided to go mad and have this mess, and just put that out and hope no one would notice. But, of course, everyone noticed. Number 7, Resident Evil Revelations. Spell check? What spell check? These minor spelling errors are the game cover mistakes that you see most often. They are also, in some ways, the most mystifying. In the case of Okami's IGN watermark, we can only imagine what mess of bureaucracy led to such an oversight. But in cases like Resident Evil Revelatons, you just have to wonder, why wasn't anyone using spell check? We have automated systems built into nearly everything these days that catch these kind of mistakes, and yet this somehow got through. It's not just like we got these systems, yesterday. These were in place back in 2012 when this game came out. And what makes this one especially notable is that the error is on arguably the most important part of the box, the spine. Imagine browsing your local game store, again before they disappear, and seeing a dozen copies for Resident Evil Relatons on the side-by-side down the row. You're not gonna buy that, are you? Now, don't get me wrong, as a writer myself, I've had plenty of similar typos accidentally go through, but never on official game sleeves that somebody probably had to have triple-checked and then triple-checked again before they went to print. Or at least, you'd assume they would. Number 6, Superman 64. This small typo is the best thing about the whole game. Now, here's one that honestly can't come as much of a surprise. Superman 64 is one of the most infamously bad games ever made. Graphics that looked like a 3D Atari game, controls that made Superman look like an uncoordinated toddler, a mostly empty world version of Metropolis, and this typo on the box that reads, "The New Superman Adventures." Adventures. Adventures. It's got no D in it, is what I'm trying to say. Frankly, the biggest surprise in all this is that this is the only mistake on Superman 64's box. I mean, a picture of a stick figure in a bloody cape and not a single word spelled correctly would be truer advertising for this train wreck in what fans had in store for them. All of these cover mistakes are at least a little bit funny though, so in Superman 64's defense, it does kind of improve the game. With this in mind, it maybe even knocks the game up to, I don't know, a solid 0.5 out of 10, which, you gotta stay positive on this channel. Number 5, 007 GoldenEye. You can't unsee it. It's not hard to see how this one made it through the multiple levels of QA involved in any visual marketing production. It's not immediately clear, and most people might not even notice it. Hell, you might not have even noticed it yet. But once you do see it, it's all you'll ever see looking at this iconic video game box art. Still not sure what I'm talking about? Well, take a good long look at Mr. Brosnan. Do you notice anything odd about the placement of his face in relation to his hand? Now you see it right, the big old Joker bulge face mouth thing. He looks like a squirrel with a cheek full of acorns. He looks like a fish with a hook caught in its mouth. He looks like Heath Ledger's Joker if he cleaned himself up, went to a job interview, and then became a spy. Look, what I'm trying to say is, he looks very silly, and now you'll all have to notice it and live in the same hell that I do day in, day out. Number 4, Grand Theft Auto 4. That can't be practical. The original cover for Grand Theft Auto 4 actually had 2 mistakes, and you can find both of them in the same panel of the graphic novel-like box art in the box. In the panel, we see protagonist Nico speeding towards the camera in a high-speed chase with the police. Ooh, cool, exciting, right? Well, no, because at first you'll notice that the license plate on his car is actually reversed. But still, no biggie, right? On the final box, it was covered by the ESRB rating anyway. Presumably, they mirrored the image for better composition and hid the part that didn't work under a logo. That's actually pretty smart design. However, the same can't be said for the other error. Take a close look at Nico and you'll see that his head is actually in front of his side view mirror. To be fair, such a driving position would be totally possible, but it couldn't possibly be comfortable. The back strain alone seems like it would be an unnecessary distraction during a police pursuit for one, especially when you're trying to be like a crime lord. Fortunately, future prints of the game corrected both mistakes. Number 3, DriveClub. That doesn't sound sanitary. The main thrust behind racing game DriveClub was its multiplayer. Players joined the titular clubs, customizing their drivers and cars to compete against other clubs in various races and challenges across the globe. It was as much a game as it was a platform for racing fans to gather and just socialize. However, we don't think developer Evolution Studios intended for the degree of socializing recommended by this error on the box. As you can see, the box states, race in hundreds of offline and online players. To be honest, I don't think I want to race in players, guy. That doesn't sound like my deal, no kink shaming if you do want to race inside other people, but it's just not for me, I'm into some weird stuff, but not that. It seems clear that somewhere along the line wires got crossed and it was supposed to read either race in hundreds of offline and online events or race with or against hundreds of offline and online players. Either way, it's a prime example of how a small error in syntax can change the meaning of a sentence entirely, transforming a basic box art quote into a truly heroic feat of sexual conquest. Number 2, Final Fantasy VII, a true masterpiece. Here's a printing mistake that makes all the sense in the world for anyone who's ever had a printer somehow screw up all their hard work. On the early printings of Final Fantasy VII for the original PlayStation, a small but critical error sees the word masterpiece, where the I has been mysteriously printed off center, covering the E, resulting in the ironic misspelling masterpiece. It's fairly easy to piece together, what happened here though. The copy was conceived, written, rewritten, proofed, double-proofed, and then sent off to the printer, and everyone at Square Enix, then Squaresoft, was confident that all was well. Unfortunately, that cheeky printer had other ideas and just slightly offsetting the I in a way that no one would have noticed until thousands of physical copies had already been printed. And by then, it likely would have been too late to do anything about it. You can almost feel the headaches this must have caused for so many people involved. Number 1, Mega Man. The entire cover. Technically, there isn't a mistake on this cover, at least not in the sense that someone somewhere made an unintentional, easily corrected error. In fact, everything about this cover is cohesive and deliberate, so what's the mistake? Well, all of it. Everything. It's all one big mistake from top to bottom, from side to side, from diagonally, in any other angles that I've forgotten. 90 degrees, 45 degrees. It's all bad. Everything that's in there, it's not good. I mean, where to even begin? Even at a time when most Japanese game covers were heavily altered to appeal to US audiences, how does this appeal to anyone? Everything looks like a surreal 70s French sci-fi cartoon rendered in crayon, drawn after a 72-hour cocaine binge. Almost nothing in the image is recognizable, from the yellow Mega Man wielding a handgun, to the palm trees, to the floating yellow things in the ground. Everything, every single part of this is baffling. Thankfully, Capcom has a sense of humor and featured bad box art Mega Man as a playable character in Street Fighter Cross Tekken. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Did you notice these video game mistakes, or are there any major ones that I've missed off here? Because this was a lot of fun, and I would love to do a commenters edition going off your suggestions. Either way, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. But even if you don't, I've been Josh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.